Welcome to our Jetpack Compose Crash Course for beginners. If you are ready to dive into the world of modern Android application development, you are in the right place. Hi there, my name is Sachin and I welcome you to our YouTube channel Native Mobile Bits. Throughout this crash course, we are going to cover basics of Jetpack Compose and we will understand that how we can use these core concepts which we are going to learn in this video to create our UI layouts. And we will also see that how Compose will leverage the power of Kotlin, which I am sure that most of you will already be knowing because you are developing your Android application using Kotlin. And enough about theory, now let's jump into Android Studio, our favorite IDE, and let's start using Jetpack Compose from very scratch. Okay, let's start today's video. Okay, so we have our Android Studio IDE open, and to create a new Jetpack Compose project, you just need to select this empty activity, which is a compose one, and we can just click on next. We can give any name. Let's give it Jetpack Compose Crash Course. This is the name we are going to give. We can give any package we want, and we can just give the location where we want to save this project. Alright, let's click on finish button and Android Studio will create one Jetpack Compose project for us. Our project is created, and first of all I want to show you the dependencies we are using, and these dependencies came up in build because we have selected the Jetpack Compose activity at the time of project creation, right? So let's go to build.gradle.kts file and we can see that we have one dependency which is compose BOM. Now if you are not familiar with this BOM terminology, BOM stands for bill of materials, and you can see that this compose BOM, this is a list of dependency or a group of dependency and their respective versions. So if we are having 10 different dependencies which we need to use in order to build application using Jetpack Compose, so Google has grouped all of those dependency and their respective version inside this compose BOM. Okay, so just for example, if you are using, let's say, Firebase, and there are n number of dependency you need to use for Firebase, so Google also has something called Firebase BOM. Okay, so it's like a new centralized location which contains all the related dependency for any given APIs. In our case, for Jetpack Compose. Now let's close this dependency file, and apart from this we have one activity also which Android Studio created for us. This is a compose activity. Now don't stress out with all of this code. We are going to write everything ourselves from scratch based on our own examples. So let's delete all of this code. Now I am sure that most of you will be knowing this code. We have one activity which extends the component activity, then we have the onCreate method, and this is the entry point for any given activity, right? In Android we have lifecycle, and onCreate is the starting point or the entry point for any given activity. The first difference which you can notice is this setContent method. Earlier we used to have some kind of XML layout assigned here, right? We used to have activity underscore main.xml or the respective name.xml, right? We used to pass that layout to this setContent method. But in Jetpack Compose, setContent is a lambda and it is kind of a composable. If we go to the declaration, we can see that this is taking a composable, right? So earlier we used to pass here one layout, but this setContent lambda is expecting something which is a composable. Now this is the main and very important difference in XML based development and in Jetpack Compose based development. In Jetpack Compose, there is no need for any XML code. We can create views using composable. Now the question is, what actually is a composable? This setContent also need a composable, and I am saying that in Jetpack Compose there is no need for any XML code. We can create views using composable. So we need to learn what actually is a composable, right? So composable is same as any function in programming. So in Kotlin we declare functions using fun keyword, right? So we can declare composable functions also the similar way. But the extra thing here is we need to annotate with @composable annotation. So first, let me just give you one blueprint of a function or a method defining approach. So we can define a function with this fun keyword. We can give any name to that function, right? We can also pass some kind of parameter also to this function, right? And we can just write our own content here, right? Only extra thing we need to do is we need to annotate this function with composable annotation. Okay, and once we annotate any function with composable annotation, it becomes a composable. Now composable is the basic building block of any screen of any layout in Jetpack Compose application. And as we know that this set content method is expecting a composable, so we can just pass the composable here, right? Something like this. But this I have just created for a blueprint purpose. Let's create one actual composable which we are going to use inside our crash course. Okay, so let's write a function called hello world. This is going to be our first composable. This is a normal function. Let's annotate this with composable annotation. Okay, and as this set content lambda is expecting a composable function, we can just pass our hello world composable function here. Okay, so now you see the difference. Earlier in XML approach we used to pass a layout here, a XML layout. Now we can pass composable functions. Okay, so if we want to write anything on a screen, we can break down into simple composable small components, and we can just pass those composables inside our set content lambda. Now good thing about Jetpack Compose is we also have inbuilt composable function for commonly used component. So let's say we want to show some kind of text inside this. So we can use inbuilt text composable. So Jetpack Compose has so many of these inbuilt composable. We are going to use most of them, or at least few of the important one in this crash course. For now we are going to use text composable. We need to pass here some text. So let's say for now we are just passing hello world app. So let me summarize what we are doing so far in this example. We have one activity, and inside this we have onCreate, which has this set content lambda, which can take inbuilt composable or our self-defined composables. We can pass to this set content method. Basically we are feeding the UI which we want to show on the screen. And as of now in this example we have created one new composable function which is called hello world, and it uses text composable. It's an inbuilt composable function from Jetpack Compose, and we are passing some content to this. And by this you can understand that one composable function can take other composable function inside, and this is the same thing we are doing. We have created one composable and we are passing this to our set content lambda. Okay, so let's run the application and let's see how it looks on the screen so far. And when we try to run the application, we got one error that there are some dependencies which require our project to compile against 34. So we can just change this, compile SDK to 34. Let's sync the project again, and now let's try to run the application. So now our application should run at least on the emulator successfully, and our app is launched. We can see we have one hello world app text, okay, which is coming from this composable, right? Now if we want to make it little bit dynamic, so these composable function can also take parameters. So let's say we want to just pass one parameter name of a string type. So now we need to pass one name. So we can just write something native mobile bits. Okay, this is the composable function. This is the parameter value. We can also use the named parameter as similar as we can inside normal Kotlin function. So this is the composable, and we are getting the name value here, which is passed from here, and we can use this name value within the scope of this composable function. So let's use inside one string template, remove this, and use name. The moment we use name, our application has updated and it has the latest value we passed. So this way we can create our composable, we can pass some parameters to those composable, we can use those parameter value within the scope of the composable function. Now let's learn about Jetpack Compose preview. In Jetpack Compose, we can see the output of this code without even running the application on any emulator or any real-time device. How we can do that? We can do that with preview composable. So for that, let's close our emulator. Okay, right now we don't have any running device. Now let's open this. So right now there is no preview. Now the question is how to add a preview, right? So we can add a preview with the help of @preview annotation, and we can define preview for composable function. So let's say we want to define a preview of this, like how our hello world composable will look in a real-time screen. To define a preview, first define a function. Let's take the composable name and append with preview. This is the common practice which you can follow. You can just take the name of the composable function and append with preview. Now this is going to be a composable first of all. Okay. Now we need to add the preview annotation as well. And this hello world preview can showcase a piece of UI which we add inside this. So as we want to see the preview of this hello world, either we can take the content of this composable function and paste it here, or we can just take the composable function like this. We can add it here. So as this takes a name parameter, we can just add one name parameter here as well. And the moment we added a parameter here, we are seeing one error inside this preview annotation. Basically, we need to define a default value for this parameter. Non-default value parameters are not allowed in a preview section. Okay, so we can define a default value, and let's say we are defining Virat as the default value, and we can just pass this name here. So don't get confused, this is the value and this is the named parameter. Okay, so as we wanted to define a preview for this hello world composable, we have defined it here. We just created a composable function. We called it hello world preview. If you have any composable, let's say text composable, so you can define text preview. If you have a button composable, you can define something like button preview. This is the common standard practice. Then we added this @preview annotation, and we took this composable, we added inside the preview composable, and we just passed the default parameter. Okay, and we can see that in the right side we have this preview section and our hello world preview is visible. Okay, but right now this is as simple as it can be. This is just a normal black text. There is not even a background for this preview, right? So if we want to add the white background or a normal background at least for our composable preview, so we can customize it. If we just click on this, we can see that this preview class has a lot of things. We can pass some boolean flags to show background. We can also pass some background color and so many other things, right? So at least for now we want to show some kind of background so that our text can be highlighted, right? So we can just pass show background as true, and the moment we pass this inside our preview annotation, we can see that we have one white background, and now our composable preview is looking much better, right? But as of now, we don't know how our component is going to look inside a mobile screen, because this is just an independent component preview, right? If I tell you that we can do that with this preview section itself, we can just check out how our component is going to look like in one actual device. Yes, we can do that. We can add one of my favorite parameter here for preview class, show system UI as true. Okay, and the moment we do this, see, our component preview is shown inside one actual system UI. Okay, so it's looking like one actual mobile screen, and how our composable is going to fit inside that screen, right? If we just pass as false, or if we don't pass this, we will just see the independent component preview. Okay, like this. Now another question is, can we define multiple preview for a single composable? And the answer is yes, we can define multiple previews. So we can customize these names for better understanding. We can say that hello world preview for component. Okay, this is basically the pure component preview, how our composable is going to look like. But if we want to create another preview for the same composable, and we want to see that how this composable is going to fit inside a mobile screen, we can just take this and we can just rename it that hello world preview in mobile screen. Okay, and inside this we can pass another tag, show system UI as true. Okay, so now we are having these two different preview, one just for component sake and another one how our component is going to look like in one actual system screen. Right, now let's move towards the next thing, and let's learn about text composable in Jetpack Compose. Although we have used it, but this is the simplest version of a text composable. We need to do a lot of things with text at a given point of time. We need to customize it, we need to give some custom size, we need to give some custom color, we need to change the text style, and so many things, right? So let's try to create our own text component, and the main idea behind creating our own text component is we should be able to use the text component anywhere inside the application, and it will be kind of reusable based on our requirement. So the first step is, let's minimize everything, let's create one function, let's call it text component and annotate it with composable annotation. Alright, and inside this we are going to use the inbuilt text composable. It has a lot of things to offer. We can pass text, modifier, color, and so many things. For now, let's try to take some value for this text from user. Okay, and we can pass this value here for this text. Okay, and this is basically a named parameter for this text composable function, and we are just passing the value which we will be taking from the place where we are going to use this text component. Okay, so consider it like this is a normal function. Inside this we are using Jetpack Compose inbuilt text composable. So if we want to show anywhere a text, we can use this component. Okay, so as we are having this hello world composable, inside this we can just use our own text component. Okay, and for the value we can just pass this string template. Okay, we can remove this now, and this is going to look like this, because as of now we are just showing the text. So this is our text component. Okay, and we are going to extend this with multiple functionality now. But let me tell you this, if you are an Android developer, this is a text view, and if you are new to Android programming, it's just a label or paragraph. Okay, now the next thing is text size, how we can change the size of this text on the screen, right? That is very important. So we can just take this in the next line, this as well. We can just add font size, this one. Okay, and we can just pass here some value, let's say 18 sp. We can import this sp, and this is going to update the value here. Okay, you can see the size of the text has increased. If we change this to 180, it will increase it much further, right? So let's say if we just has 24 sp as the text size, so it is going to fit in perfectly. Okay, but as of now this is static, right? Because if we are calling this text component from multiple places, we are not passing the size as per our requirement, right? For all the text as of now, size will be 24 sp. So this is kind of static, but we want to make sure that wherever we call this text component, based on our requirement, we should be able to pass the text size. So we can make this as well dynamic. We can add this as a parameter. We can call it, let's say, size, and this is going to be of text unit type. Okay, now when we call this text component from anywhere inside our application or in this screen, we need to pass the size as well. Okay, so let's go to its uses, and here we can just pass some size, let's say 24 sp from here itself. We can also change the size as per our requirement. Let's say we want to make it 36 sp, so it will increase again, and it's totally customizable based on our requirement. Next thing is how we can change the text color, right? That is also very important. So for that, we can just use color named parameter, and we can also use these predefined color from Android X Compose graphics, right? So if you want to change this to blue, our UI will update with blue text color. If we want to change it with yellow, so our UI will update with yellow color. It's totally customizable. We can just use, let's say, green, and yeah, it's looking nice. We can also use red or any color based on our requirement. Now you can see that this is also a customizable option. We can have multiple different requirement, and from different places we can need different colors. So we can also make it customizable. We can just add one color value parameter, and we can just use color as the parameter. We can remove this and we can just use color value. Okay, and we can go to its declaration. We can just use any color here, color dot, let's say we use magenta. Okay, yeah, it's updated. We can also take this in next line for better readability, like this. Now next thing is how we can change the font weight for any given text or any paragraph inside our layout. So to change the font weight for any given text, we can use font weight. This is a named parameter, and we have multiple options. So either we can use medium, normal, light. We also have bold, extra bold, and thin, and so many other things. So let's say we use semi bold. Okay, so we can see it's increased little bit in size. If we just use as thin, the size will change like this. Okay, so let me just zoom it so you can see the difference. Right now it is thin. If we change it to bold, so it will be like this. Okay, and not all the text or paragraph inside our application will be of type bold, so this should be customizable, and for that we can add another parameter. Let's call it font weight value, and this is going to be of type font weight. We can just use it here. Okay, and instead of passing the value manually every time we use this text component, we can also utilize the default value, right? We can also pass a default value for this parameter, because most of the time we will go ahead with normal font weight itself, right? So we can just pass font weight dot normal. Okay, and now we no need to pass every time. If we want to change this to some specific font weight, we can do so with, let's say, thin, and it will update to thin font weight itself, right? But if we don't want to pass it, it's completely fine. It will just take the default value we have provided. We can take these in next line, so it will be better to read. And now the next thing we want to learn is how we can make it italic if we want, for example. So we can change the style with font style named parameter, and we can use font style dot normal or italic. If we want to make it italic, we can just pass this and it will just update the text style. We can also use this here, font style value. Okay, and let's use it here, and let's pass with one default value. Okay, default value will be normal. Most of the time it will be normal, and as we are not passing it manually here, so right now our font style is normal. Now next we are going to learn about maximum number of lines. So we have this option where we can limit the number of visible lines in a text composable. Okay, so we can do that with the help of max lines, this one. Okay, and we can pass the maximum number of lines we want to show inside a text composable. So to set the maximum lines, first we should be having a longer text string, right? So let's take this out. Let's go to hello world composable. Here we have this value, right? Hello name, hello Virat, which is coming here, right? And let's use this extension function called repeat, and let's add, I need 15 times repetition for this text. Comment this preview also first for now. Okay, so we are only seeing preview in mobile screen. Okay, and it has 15 times this hello Virat, right? Now we want to restrict that, we just want to show maximum 2 lines inside this text composable. So we can use max line equal to 2, and our text composable will update and it will only show the maximum 2 lines. But our actual text is very long. If we remove this, we can see that our actual text is very long, right? But we are only showing maximum 2 lines, right? So we want to show some kind of indication or some kind of text overflow, right? Because we are limiting a long text, so we should be able to indicate that there is a text overflow, but we are only showing 2 lines of it, right? So this text overflow is only shown when the displayed text is truncated, right? Because it was lengthy, but we are showing a short version of it. So we can use text overflow. And how we can do that? We can use another property here, and we can call it overflow, and we can use text overflow dot ellipsis. Okay, so it will show that there is some kind of text overflow. It was a lengthy text, but we are only showing less of it. But we will not be restricting our text composable that just show only 2 lines all the times. So let's make it customizable. We can just declare one parameter here, max lines value, and this is going to be type int, and by default it's going to be null. Okay, and let's change this code here. Let's use max lines value. If we have passed any specific max line number, we will use that. If it's null, we will just use int dot max value, which is going to be very lengthy, like these many lines, and this will always show the entire text. Okay, so we have used it. Now if we try to just go to the declaration, we are not even required to pass the max lines and everything, but if we want to restrict our text, we can do so. How we can do that? We just need to use this named parameter. We can pass, let's say, just show only 1 line inside my text composable, and it will show it perfectly. It is also showing that there is a lengthy text, but we are just showing a short version of it. So we can remove it for now, like this. Okay, and that's about it. This way we can use max lines and text overflow as well. Now the next thing is modifiers. So in Jetpack Compose, we have so many different Compose UI elements. We can also define our own composables, but the modifier remains similar. Modifier is used to decorate these composables. It can be inbuilt composable, it can be a composable which we have defined on our own. If we want to decorate these UI element, we need to use modifier. For example, if we want to add some kind of background, some padding, we can use modifier. So if you are an Android developer, most of the XML attributes you are familiar with, like ID, padding, margin, color, alpha, ratio, elevation, all of these things can be done with the help of modifiers. Okay, so let's say we have this text component as of now, right? We have this text composable. If we want to add some kind of background to it, how we can do that? We can do that with the help of modifier. So to use modifier, we just need to use this named parameter called modifier. Okay, and we need to use modifier dot background, this one, and we can pass here some color. Let's say if we want to pass gray, we can pass it here. Okay, and our text component will be having gray background. Okay, you can see that as of now it's taking gray background color. We can change with any color. Let's say if we want to put black color in the background of this text, we can just use with modifier help. We are just using modifier dot background color black. Now the next thing is, if we want to add any padding to this text. So as of now this text is just starting from the most left possible. It does not has any padding and anything. So if we want to add any padding to it, we can do that with the help of modifier itself. Let's add padding. Okay, so we can just add 18 dp. We can import this dp here and it will have one padding to it. Okay, we can see our text is having some padding now. We can take these in next line for better readability, and this is the most standard practice to keep it in this format. Okay, and one another interesting thing, modifier respect the elements in order. So as of now we are setting background color first, then we are setting the padding, right? But if we set the padding first and then set the background, so you notice the difference. First modifier is setting the padding, then it's setting the background color. Okay, so this way make sure that you use the elements in desired order. If you want to set the background color for the entire height and width, first set up the background color and then set the padding. Okay, this is very important because modifier respect elements in order. Now the next thing is, if you want to set some custom height and width for any given composable. So as of now you see this text component is taking the entire screen, right? If we click on this, it's taking the entire screen. But if we want to just take only required height, so we can do that with the help of modifier itself. We can just say wrap content height, and this will only take the required height needed to showcase this text. But right now our text is coming in the center and is still this black background in the entire screen, right? So that's because, as I mentioned, modifier respect the elements order. So first we need to specify that we need wrap content height. Okay, we can remove from the end. So now modifier is just taking the height needed to show this text. It's not taking the entire screen. You can see this blue line boundary is our text component. Okay, but this is in center. So if you want to take this at the top, we can just set align and we can just use alignment dot top. Okay, this will just put our text on the top of our screen. And now we can see that our text composable is only taking the required height. If we just update this and we set max lines, let's say we just want to show 4 lines, so our text will update and it will automatically reduce its needed height as well. See, this is the benefit. And now we are also seeing this text overflow indication based on our implementation which we have just done, right? With this max line and overflow, right? So if we just update or remove this and we want to show the entire screen, our text will just increase its height automatically. Okay, this is basically the wrap content for Android developers who are coming from XML background. And we can also use some different alignment. If we want to just put it in the center, we can just use center vertically. And if we want to move it at the bottom of the screen, we can just use alignment dot bottom. Okay, so it will just move the entire text composable at the bottom of the screen. Okay, these are the different ways we can align. For now we are going to go ahead with top. And if we want to make sure, let's say we are not having this much big text, we just have one normal small name. Okay, and this is just a very small tiny string, but as of now it's taking the entire screen width, right? If we want to reduce the width also based on its content, so we can just use wrap content width. So it will just take the required width for the given text. See, as of now, but it's in the center as of now, we can just use align property again, and we can just use alignment dot start if we want to put the text on the left hand side. If we want to move it to the end of the screen, we can use this alignment dot end, and it will take the text to the end of the screen. And for now we are going to go ahead with start. Okay, and as of now we have a small string, but let's say we want to make sure that this text composable takes the entire screen. So instead of wrap content height and width, we can just use fill max size, and this is like match parent for all the Android developers out there who are coming from XML background. We can also set opacity for any given composable with the help of modifier, and to set the opacity we just need to use alpha, and we can pass the value between 0.1 to 1.0. So let's say if we want to set the opacity to 50%, we can just use 0.5, and we need to pass the value in float. So the moment we set the opacity, you can see that the composable is dimmed out. We are going to remove this opacity alpha for now because we want the composable to be fully visible as of now. Okay, if we want to use opacity, we can use with the help of alpha as we just did. Now the next thing is how we can add shape to our text composable, or for any composable how we can add some kind of border. So in Jetpack Compose, with the help of modifier, we can also set some kind of border. And for example, as we have this text composable, and if we want to set some kind of border surrounding to this text, we can do that with the help of modifier. And to set the border, we just need to use modifier dot border, and we have multiple different variation. Okay, so let's go ahead with the simplest one. We just need to give the width, like how much width of the border should be there. So we can just set maybe 2dp, and then we just need to pass one color. Okay, so let's say we want to use the same color, so we can just take color dot magenta, and this will set one border to our text composable. Okay, we can see that right now we have the text composable and we are using this fill max size. So the entire area is covered with the help of our text composable, and when we set the border, it is setting for the entire text. Now let's remove this fill max size, and let's use the wrap content width and wrap content height itself, which we were talking about previously, and it will just take the required height and width, right? For now let's set the width to the full screen. So we can also go ahead like this, fill max width, so it will just take the full width of the mobile screen. But as we are using wrap content height, so height will be only as much as it's needed for this text composable, right? And as I was talking about, that modifier respect the order of these element we are setting here. So that's why you can see that first we are setting the padding. Okay, so there is some padding, then we are setting the border. So we can also just take this padding. First we can set the border, and then we can set the padding. So there will be some space in between this border and the text. Now it's looking much better, right? And by default, it's setting the border with the rectangular shape. We can also customize this shape. So there are some predefined shape which Jetpack Compose provide us. If we want to set some kind of rounded corner shape here, we can pass one shape as well, and we just need to pass this rounded corner shape. Okay, and we need to pass that how much round corner we want, so we can pass some kind of dp size. So let's say we want to pass the same corner in all sides, so we can just pass 20 dp and it will just add one rounded corner effect. One thing to note here that we have added this rounded corner shape, but still this background color is going out of this shape, but we don't like this, and I think you would agree that if we are setting some kind of shape, so the background color should stay within that shape, right? So for this we have something called clip, and we can use clip with existing shapes we have. So as we have this rounded corner shape, but as of now our text composable has become some kind of static or tightly coupled with these property, because everywhere we would not like to set this black background and everything. So we can just make it little bit custom, and for that we can add one parameter, background color. This is going to be of type color itself, and it's going to have one default value, color dot white. Okay, and we can just set this in place of color dot black here inside background tag, so that it will be having one white background, and we no need to pass this background color value from everywhere because this is a default value assigned parameter. And for this border and padding, we can use it whenever we want, but for now let's remove this as well. We could also make it dynamic, but for now we are going to just remove border and clip, and we just need to have this default text. Okay, this is the current state of our text composable. Alright, so far we have learned a lot of things about text composable and Jetpack Compose in general. We can also add one preview for this if we want. So how to add the preview? As I have mentioned previously, we just need to add this preview annotation, and we can just take this part. Okay, we can add it here. We can just tell it like this, preview, and that's it. And inside this we can just add this composable. So as we have most of the times some default value, but we don't have default value for these parameters, so we need to pass. We can just take from here as well, this one, and we can just add it here, but we don't have any name or anything. So for now we can just add hello Sachin, and it will start reflecting if we just look at this preview. Alright, so as of now we have covered all of these things, and now let's move forward to the next topic, how we can create some custom layout in Jetpack Compose. Right, so if we want to build any screen, there can be n number of different views, right? There can be a text, there can be a button, there can be some kind of list or something, right? We can also add some kind of edit text kind of component where user can input something. So we need to learn how we can arrange these different composables or child views in any specific orientation, right? So if you are coming from Android application development, so you know that we have linear layout, we have relative layout, and we also have some kind of orientation which we can provide in our linear layouts, like either we want to arrange our children in vertical manner or horizontal manner. So we should be able to, somehow manage the children composable in a specific orientation in Jetpack Compose as well. And that is the next topic we are going to learn. But before that, let's clear out this code from our main activity. One thing to note here is that all of this composable or composable preview are out of this main activity scope. Main activity scope ends here. So we can just keep these composables or preview code anywhere inside our project. So for that, let's create one new file, and we can just call it app components, and this file will contain all of the composable or their respective preview. So we can take out all of these composables, and we can just cut this and paste inside app components. Okay, and now if we see that all the errors are solved and our main activity is also looking cleaner, and we can just organize the imports, because now all of the things we are accessing from this app components file. Okay, now main activity set content is taking this hello world composable, and this is having the text component as a child, and all of these things are at one place called app components. Now, as we were discussing about how we can design custom layout and how we can arrange the view inside one specific orientation, so for that, let's design one new composable, or let's say we design one new screen. So that will be very easy for you how we can design one new screen for each and every different examples we are going to take. So let's design one layout in horizontal orientation. So for that, let's design one new screen first, and let's take one Kotlin file and let's call it horizontal screen. Okay, in this step you will also learn how to design a layout in which we can arrange the children view in a horizontal manner, and you will also learn how you can design one new screen for your application using composables. Okay, in Jetpack Compose we have something called row and column. So if we want to arrange the view horizontally, we can use row, and if we want to arrange the views vertically, we can use column. And in this example, we are going to consider row composable. This comes up with Jetpack Compose, and for that, let's start by defining a composable function first, and we can call it horizontal screen itself, which we have used as the name of this file, and we need to add this with composable annotation. And inside this we can use row composable with this. This is a inbuilt composable and it is coming out of Jetpack Compose library itself. If we go to the declaration, we can see that this is a composable itself. And if you are familiar with Android development with XML, so you can consider this row composable as a linear layout with horizontal orientation. Okay, so this is kind of a parent composable you can think of, and within this scope we can add multiple child composable. Okay, so let's close all of the other files, and as we have developed some custom components, right, so we can try to use this text component as well. So let's close this, and within this row composable we can use any composable, our own defined composable or some composable which is directly coming out of Jetpack Compose. We can use this. This is coming directly from Jetpack Compose. We can also use this which we have declared. Okay, so let's start with the simplest one, and we can give any text here. So let's say we are giving text 1. Okay, we can also use another text composable, and similarly we can use few others. Right now we have 4 text composable inside this row composable. So this row composable will show each of these child next to the previous one. How it is going to look like, we can just define a preview with this preview annotation. We can define a composable, we can define a function horizontal screen preview like this, and within this we can just use the composable. There is some preview coming up in the right side, but let's add show background as true so that we have some kind of visual representation for the background as well. So we can see that there are few text composable, and all of these text composables are arranged in a horizontal way, right? Now how we can customize it, right? Or how it is going to look like in a screen. So first of all, let's use this flag show system UI as true so that we are able to see that how it's going to look like in a mobile screen. And now we can see that all of these 4 texts are placed next to each other, but these texts are not taking the entire width, right? So for that, our row composable can be customized, and we can add here modifier, and with modifier we can just use fill max width, and then the entire row will be filled. So we have defined that our row should take the entire width of the screen, but still our text composable are placed just close to each other. Now the question is how we can define some rule or some regulation inside this row composable so that all of its children can take up the equal space inside the mobile screen. For that, we have some kind of arrangement and alignment. We can use something called horizontal arrangement, and we have multiple options. So let's say if you want to put some equal space in between all of these child text composable, we can use space between. Okay, and it will put equal space in between all of these text as we can see in the screen. Yeah, and if we want to use some space around all of these text composable, we can use this arrangement dot space around, and it will also put some space at the start and at the end of these text composable. We can also use space between so that it will just put some space in between of these text composable. We can also arrange all of these text composable at the end with the help of arrangement dot end. Okay, so let's say we are using space evenly, and it's going to put even space at the start, in between, and at the end. Okay, and then if we want to arrange these text composable little bit down, we can use vertical alignment, and we can use alignment dot, let's say, bottom. Okay, and we can see that all of the text composables are aligned at the bottom. We also have other options like center vertically, and this is going to put all of our text composable in the center. Okay, so with the help of this horizontal arrangement and vertical alignment, we can customize our row composable. And as of now, we have seen that we are using this composable which is directly coming out of Jetpack Compose. We can also use our own composable. So for that, first of all, let's just give some default value here. Let's say we want to give a default size of 18 SP so that we don't need to pass this from everywhere. And the default color we are going to have is, we have used it somewhere, color dot magenta. Okay, this one. And inside we are just customizing our text composable as we have just seen in some time back. We are going to use now our own text component. Okay, so we can just modify it here, and for text we are having a parameter called value, so we can just add it here. Okay, and then other parameters are also having some default value, so we no need to define. Okay, so if we notice, our screen is just showing a one text and it is taking the entire width, right? That's because we are having fill max width here. If we just use wrap content width, so it's going to take only the width needed to show the text. We can also give some custom height for our row composable, let's say 400 dp, and we need to import this dp extension. Now how to understand that our row is taking only this much height or not? Let's try to add one background color as well. So we can just pass color dot black. So we are using color dot black now, but with the help of this height 400 dp, is still we are seeing that the entire screen height is showing up in the black background. That can be because we are just using this inside the preview. So system UI as true. Let's try to remove this and see our composable preview is taking at least some height. If we try to modify it, let's see if it's reflecting here as well. So if we reduce it to 100 dp, so yeah, our row composable is actually modifying. So if we try to just revert it back to 400 and let's try to run this on our emulator, so we'll see if it's taking the actual height and width. Yeah, we can see that our composable is just taking 400 dp, and if we are using show system UI as true, although it's showing the full height taken in the preview because we are using this flag, but actually it will take only the height which we have assigned to the row composable with the help of modifier. Okay, and for now if we try to modify it to 200, it's modifying, right? How cool it is with Jetpack Compose. We no need to build multiple times as well, right? We can see that it's lively updating on the emulator part as well. That's very cool, right? And I know that a lot of things are becoming stable day by day, compose multi-platform and all of those things. We are going to learn all of these things eventually on native mobile bits, so stay tuned. And now let's move towards the next topic we have. Now next thing we have is something called column in Jetpack Compose. So if we try to put some child composable in vertical manner, we can use column. So for that, first of all, let's define one another screen with the help of one Kotlin file, and let's call it vertical screen. Okay, now let's try to define this vertical screen composable from the scratch, and why I am designing this from scratch, so that you get a groove of it. Alright, basically the more you see how we can code in Jetpack Compose, the more you will easily understand. Alright, so for few of the examples we are going to use this strategy where we are going to define one new composable. Let's define one new function, vertical screen. Okay, so in Jetpack Compose we can define any screen with a composable as well. So you can understand, right? Like these composables are kind of a view which take some space on the screen, and this time we are going to define a vertical screen where we want to put some children in a vertical orientation manner, right? So for that we have something called column. Now before we start adding some composable inside this vertical screen column, so before that let's open our horizontal screen. We have this example, we have some preview as well. So we have these texts, right? So let's try to add these text between our column composable scope. Now I am wondering how our vertical screen is going to look like. For that, let's quickly design one preview as well. With preview composable, we can just take the same name. We can just add it with preview, and here we can just use our vertical screen composable, and our preview will be ready. Let's build and refresh, and we are going to see how our vertical screen is looking like. Alright, we have all of these text composable arranged in vertical orientation, but let's modify our column little bit. It's not looking much pretty, right? So to modify our column, we can use modifier. Now with the help of modifier, we can just use fill max width so that our column take at least full width of the mobile screen. Now it's taking full width, but our text components are only taking the needed height. It's not filling the entire screen width. That's because we have just modified with wrap content width. And if we modify it with fill max width, now our column text composables will take the entire width, right? Now let's try to add some custom height. So first we can go ahead with fill max height, and it's going to take the entire space on the screen. And to see that, first of all, let's try to run this on emulator, because there is some kind of preview we can say which is having fill max height, but it will be better if we run this on a device, right? So for that, let's try to go to main activity and change this to vertical screen and run this on our emulator. Code is running, and we can see that there is our column composable in the center of the screen. But to identify it much better, we can add one background color. Okay, so let's add, we can pass color.black, and we can see that our column is there, and it is also taking fill maxed height so that full screen height and width is covered. If we want to just take the required height, we can do so with the help of wrap content height, and let's try to run this. So we can see that our column is there, but we cannot see any background, right? Because we have covered our entire column height and width with these text composables. If we want to see some kind of difference, we can add some kind of padding, let's say 18 dp. We can import it, and at least there should be some kind of preview of the background color in the back. Yeah, we can see there is some black color which is the background of our column. So I hope with this row and column composables, now you have some idea that how we can customize the layout, right? We can use column composable if we want to put some composables in vertical manner, and we can use row composable if you want to put something in horizontal manner. Alright, So let's go ahead and let's try to use this vertical screen itself, but we are going to customize it with some new composable. So let's learn about some new composable first. Let's close this and open our app components file. Let's minimize everything, and this is the file where we are adding all of the composables which we are trying to create, right? So now after these text composables, preview, row and column, we are going to learn about buttons. So in almost every screen there is some kind of buttons, right? So where we can click and we can perform some kind of action. So for that we should be knowing how we can define a button. So let's start by creating a simple button. For that, the first step is let's try to create a composable. Okay, let's minimize this for now. So let's define a function. Let's call it simple button for now. And this is going to be our button composable function. Okay, inside this we can just use the predefined composable from Jetpack Compose, and then we can modify it based on our requirement. Okay, so this is the inbuilt composable, and if we just go to the declaration of it, we have so many things. The first one is it's kind of a on click callback argument, and within this we are going to get a callback when someone tap on the button. Alright, and then we can also customize our button with the help of modifier, with shape and so many other things. Then we can also pass some kind of content within this button scope. Let's try to do this and understand all of these things by doing it. Okay, so we have this on click here. Remove this to do. We will define some kind of code here which we want to perform when someone click this button, right? So let's say we want to print some kind of log for now, right? And we can just add with this composable name, and let's add button clicked. Okay, this is the log which we want to print when someone click on the button. Now first let's design one preview so that we understand how our button is going to look like, right? For that we can just define simple button preview. Within this we can just pass simple button composable. So we can see that we have a small button as of now. Let's try to modify it. So we can use modifier, and with the help of modifier we can increase the bit. For now let's use the entire width of the screen to showcase inside our button, and we can see that our button preview is updated and we are seeing some kind of full width for our button. Now we want to customize the content of our button. So for that we can add a text composable. We can also use our own text component. Let's use this, and for now let's say we want to add click here. Okay, this is the text which we want to add. So we can see that we have some kind of text, and as of now it's not looking pretty because this text component is kind of a text specific composable which we have designed. So let's say we design one another composable and we call it normal text for buttons. Okay, this is the composable which we have added for now, and this composable function is going to take some kind of value which we are going to show inside the text, and inside this we are going to use the default inbuilt text, and let's pass this value here. Okay, for now let's try to use this in place of text component. Okay, so we are having this button component, and inside this we are using the button from the Jetpack Compose. We are modifying it based on our liking, and within the scope of this button we are going to add one normal text. Okay, so for now we have passed the value click here, and we can see that our button preview is updating. Right now we can modify it little bit and we can make it much prettier. So let's try to just add some kind of modifier for our text, and let's try to pass modifier dot fill max width. That's the default for now. and we are also going to pass some kind of padding as well. So let's add 18 dp as the padding for all sides. So our height is increased, right? So we can also reduce if it's too much, I think. So 8 dp. This is the early stage for our text composable for button, right? So this is our button composable. We are using this normal text for button within the scope of our button composable, and that's why we are seeing this text inside our button composable. If we want to increase the height of our button, we can just give here some custom height, let's say 100 dp, and our button height will increase to 100 dp. But I think 100 is just too much. Let's use 68 dp. So I think it should be little bit nice. So for now, let's try to use this simple button inside our main activity. And should we replace this or should we just customize our vertical screen? We can customize as well. Let's use our simple button here. And now if we try to run the application, our screen will be having the vertical screen and one button as well. But this black background and all, it's not looking much better. So I think I'm going to remove this background for now, and now it's little bit better, right? Now let me explain you what we have done so far. So this is the main activity we have. Inside this we have defined one vertical screen as the starting point of our main activity, and within this vertical screen we are having a column composable and we are having some components. So column composable is basically responsible to arrange all of these child composable in vertical orientation. Okay, these are normal text component which we have designed, you have seen in the previous part of this video. Then next thing we have this button which we have just designed inside this simple button composable, and we also have added one callback on click, and that means that whenever any user or someone will click on this button. So let's try to open the logcat. Let's add this tag here. So when we click this button, we got this log. It's coming with today's date. Then we have the tag which we have added here, and we are having this message button clicked, this one, right? So whenever we are going to click this button, we will be getting this callback on click, and the code which we have inside this callback will execute. So let's click again, and we can see that as much as we will click this, we will be keep on getting these logs, right? Because our code is executing within this callback. We can also customize our button with the help of shape. We can provide some custom shape. Jetpack Compose also provides us some inbuilt shape like rectangular shape, this one. And the moment we use rectangular shape, we can see that our button is updated. We can also use rounded corner shape, and we need to provide some kind of size for rounding effect. So let's say we just want to provide 12 dp. So our button will be updated with rounded corner. We can also increase this, let's say 40 dp or something. So it will keep on increasing the rounded corner effect, but let's go ahead with 12 dp. Okay, this looks nice. Now the next thing is how we can put this text in the center, right? So for that we have this text composable within the scope of this button, right? We can update this text composable. We just need to add text align, and we can just use text align dot center, and it will place the text in the center. Now if we increase the size of our button also, let's say 108 dp, our text will still be in the center. Alright, let's revert it back and let's move to the next topic. And now we are going to learn about text field. If you are an Android developer and you are familiar with edit text, text field is the similar thing in Jetpack Compose. And let's go to the vertical screen and let's modify this screen little bit. Let's say we are going to change the value hello there. Okay, we have changed this value. Let's remove all of these text, and for the second text let's enter some description. Please enter your name. Okay, this is the normal text we are having as of now. So now for the first text, let's change the color. So for color, we are going to pass the value and we are going to say color dot black. Okay, and let's increase the size also. So we can just check what we have. We have size as well, we have font value as well. So let's pass the size for this text first, and for that we need to just use size and let's say 24 sp. Okay, then we also need to change this font weight. Let's change this to font weight dot bold. Okay, now it is looking little bit like a heading or something. It's nice. And then let's go to our app components and we are going to define one new composable for text field. Okay, so let's create one new composable with this annotation and function, and we can just call it simple text field, or we can call it text field component. Okay, and inside this we are going to use one predefined composable from Jetpack Compose. It's called text field. Okay, this one. Now text field, this is kind of a new user interface in Jetpack Compose, and it is used to allow the user to enter any text. Okay, if we want to take any input from any user, we can use text field component. For a simple example, if you have a login screen, there you can take input from user, some kind of email and password. So there we can use text field component. Obviously we can modify the text field component based on our requirement. Okay, so if we go to the declaration of it, we have a load of options. We can take some value, we have some callback for own value change, we have modifier, and we have keyword option, keyword actions, single line, max line, a load of attributes. We can use whatever we want to use based on our requirement. So let's start with one simple text field, and let's say inside our simple text field we are going to write one callback lambda here for this own value change. Okay, and every text field will be having some kind of value entered by user at any given point of time. So for that we can use one variable, let's say text. This is one empty string for now. Now this text we can use in place of value, that any given point of time whatever the text is entered by user, we are just passing that to this value argument here. Okay, now whenever user enters something, we will get one callback inside this own value change. We can just use one predefined name here, let's say new text. Okay, we have declared this inside this lambda callback, and we can update this text with the new text entered by user. Okay, and we can just click on this and we can opt in for experimental material 3 APIs. Alright, so this is the normal way how we can just create one very basic and simple text field. We have used this predefined text field composable. We have created one variable text to hold the value entered by user, and whenever user is changing the value, we are just updating this value, and which eventually will update the value shown on the screen. Okay, so let's try to use this and let's see how it is going to look like. Okay, so first let me just create one preview for this, and the quickest way will be just copy this, call it text field component preview, and access your text field component here. Okay, now we can just try to use this inside vertical screen. So we can put this text field component above this button. So let's access text field component here, and let's try to run our project. So we can see that there is one edit text, but right now UI is broken, right? So let's try to modify this with modifier as well. Let's try to add one modifier, and let's give full width with the help of fill max width, this one. So we can see that yeah, our text field is having some kind of full width available now. We can remove this from preview because it's already added in the actual composable. Now our text field is looking very empty, right? So we can add some kind of label, and label is basically kind of some text information on top of the text field placeholder. Okay, so for label we can just add with the help of this, and this can take some component inside this scope. So let's say we were having one normal text, right? This normal text for buttons, etc. So we can modify this or rename this with normal text. Okay, and we can use this in place of label as well. And let's say for label we want to pass your name. Okay, only this much. And then we would also like to add some kind of placeholder so that this is not in empty state completely, and this can also take one scope. Here also we are going to define one normal text, and let's take this please enter your name. This we will define. Okay, so we can just take this one, and let's remove this text component for now, and let's add that here. Okay, in placeholder. Now let's try to run our application once again, and let's see how it's looking like now. Okay, so our application is installed, but as of now everything is coming in center, this label as well, this placeholder as well. That's because within this scope of label and placeholder we are using this composable normal text, and within this normal text we are using this text align as center, and this is by default as of now, so it should not be center by default. So what we can do here is we can add alignment, and let's say we are going to use by default text align dot start. Okay, and we are going to use this alignment in place of text align. Now we are using it from multiple places. Now let me show you what happens when we use one composable at multiple places, but we change it suddenly. Okay, so let's run it. Right now our button is having text in center, but now everything is in the start. So that's why be very careful. Let's see, we are using it here in the button. Okay, we can pass the alignment from here, text align dot center. So now for button we have the text in the center, and for edit text or text field we have the text in the starting. All of these things, label and placeholder, right? But now still we have some modifications to do. Right now all of these things are coming very close to each other, right? So let's go to vertical screen. If you are a little bit confused, let me summarize once again. We have this main activity, then we have this vertical screen, and within vertical screen we are using column to arrange these children in vertical orientation. We are having this text component for this hello there. We have this text field for this edit text kind of composable. Then we have this simple button. Okay, let's try to modify this. Either we can add some padding or something here, or the best thing will be we add one spacer here. Okay, spacer is kind of one empty view you can say, and we can just use modifier dot height, and let's say 10 dp. Okay, so now we have some kind of empty space here and there, right? So let's add little bit below text component as well. Yeah, now we have one text composable, then some empty space, then one edit text, then some empty space, or let's make it 40. Okay, now it's much better. And let's go to this text field component, and here can we enter anything? Yeah, we are typing, but it's not updating, right? That's because we are not using any states as of now. We are just having this text as a normal variable. So what we can do is we can use some kind of mutable states, and mutable state is a very wide topic. I also have separate videos on that. You will be seeing those videos on the screen right now. You can also check those out, and in the next video I am also going to explain much more about states, but for now you just learn how we can use it. So this is the syntax. We have this var text, right? So we are going to remove this, and we are going to use by remember. Okay, this one, and within this we need to write mutable state of, and here we can just use one empty string. Okay, but right now it's showing one error because it is not importing the correct thing. Let's import get value and set value as well. Okay, now that error will be gone. Now whenever we are getting some text, so we are just updating with new text and we are having from state. Okay, so if we try to run the program now, so we are using this mutable state, right? And let me explain you why we use this mutable state. So basically in Jetpack Compose we try to use some values with the help of observable. So if you are already familiar with observable concept, you know that if you are changing some observable value and someone else is listening or observing that value, so whenever that value will change, they will automatically get it, right? So that is the same concept we use with the help of mutable state. But for now you can understand that mutable state, it just return an observable value for Jetpack Compose. So if the value is changed by user, like user is entering some new value, so UI will get changed automatically if we are using mutable state value. Okay, so now if we try to enter something here, let's say Sachin, so we can say the UI is updating, right? We can also update the size of the text with the help of text style here, and let's say we are using this text style, and inside this we can pass font size. Let's say we are using 21 sp. Okay, we also have some other things we can customize like color, weight, style, and all of these things. Will it affect? Yeah, the size is increased, right? We can also change font weight. For example, let's say we want to use font weight dot bold, and now if we enter something, we can see it's coming in bold. If we try to make it italic, we can use font style, and we can use font style dot italic, and our text will be in italic now, right? If we want to change the color or something, we can change with the help of color dot magenta, or any color we can take, right? If we try to use blue color, so it will again update like this. Let's use Virat Kohli, and it will update the name. So we can also change this placeholder style, and that we can do with the help of this normal text updation, because we are using this normal text inside label and placeholder both. So let's increase some size here. Let's say font size 16 sp. Okay, now we can see our placeholder and our label text size is also increased. If we use here hello world, our text and placeholder both are visible properly. Let's remove this font style first of all. And one another thing is, as of now you are seeing all of these things as characters. If we want a keyboard with number, so we can just use keyboard options, and we just need to use keyboard options. We need to pass keyboard type here, and our type will be keyboard type dot number. And now if we try to enter here anything, we'll be having some kind of numbers. Now let's close all of these things and let's learn about the next topic, which is going to be image in Jetpack Compose. So let's create one new composable. We can minimize everything, and let's create one new function, a composable function, and this time we are going to call it image component. Okay, now inside the image component composable function, we can use predefined image composable, which is coming out of Jetpack Compose library. Okay, so we can just use this. And to create an image, we need these following parameters: painter and the content description. Okay, so painter is basically a parameter which can help us to load a driver from our resources. So if we have something, some image inside our drawable folder, like we have this logo one and thumbnail, so Painter can help us to load these images into our image. So let's try to use one of these image. So I have this logo, our channel logo. Let's try to put this inside the image composable first. Let's take this in the next line, this as well. Now inside Painter parameter, we can just use Painter resource and we can pass the ID of our image, which is going to be logo one, and in content description we can just pass any text we want, channel logo. Okay, now let's try to see how our image is looking, and for that we need to create one preview, and we can just take this code, put it here and call it image component preview. Let's take this in the next line for curly braces and let's access image component here. Okay, now if we open the preview window, there will be one preview for our image as well. Yeah, we can see this is the image component preview we have. We can also add some kind of background here, right? And this is going to be our image. Let's add some system UI flag true as well, so that we can see how it's going to look like in one full screen. Okay, this is our image component preview. Now if we want to customize our image, we have all the possibilities available with the help of modifier, alignment and content scale. We can also apply some kind of alpha for opacity, and if you remember, we were learning about alpha in the starting of this video as well, and we can also apply some color filters. So let's try to use some of these properties inside our image component. Okay, we can obviously use one modifier here, and with this we can also use wrap content height, so that our image will take only the needed height and it will not take the entire screen space. Now let's do one thing. Let's add this image component in vertical screen, because here it is just showing system UI, so it will not be much clear like what's happening inside the screen. Let's add below button. Okay, now we can open the preview here and our image is showing up inside the vertical screen. Let's also run this on emulator and let's hide this code. Okay, so we can see that our image is showing up. Let's try to change this image once with thumbnail. Okay, we have our thumbnail image also visible on the screen, but we can see that as of now there is no space in between this button and image. So let's go back to vertical screen and let's just add this spacer. Okay, now there is a space. Let's increase this to 40. Now it's having some proper space, and let's go back and let's try to change this to logo 1. Okay, now if we try to set some kind of background color, can we do that? Let's try to see that with modifier color dot black. Yeah, we can do that. So this is the image we have as of now. This is just taking wrap content height, and width is also wrap content as of now. But can we set match parent? Yes, we can with fill max width. Okay, then it will take the entire width space for this image. If we want to set some kind of content scale, we can also set that. So let's try to set content scale. So we have multiple options like content scale fit, crop, fill inside, fill width and fill height as well. So let's try to use crop. See, right now if we are using crop, so as we are having wrap content height, our image height is increased because it's just trying to zoom a little bit with the help of this crop. Now let me show you one trick. Let's say we have one rectangular image or some kind of image we have. Let's remove this background for now. And let's say we want to make this image as a circular image, right? So to do that, first of all, we need to give some size here, okay, for all kind of directions. So let's say we are giving 108 dp. This is the size. Now we can see that our image is a smaller square kind of thing, but can we make it circular? So we can, with the help of clip, and we can just give circle shape, okay, and our image is in a circular shape, right? We can also increase this size. Our image will be circular itself. Now one another important feature can be if you want to load some image from the network, right? So I have one separate video already for that, and you will be seeing the thumbnail of that video right now on the screen. You can also check this video out at our channel in the recent videos. Now let's move towards the next topic, and in the next topic we are going to learn about list in Jetpack Compose. Let's close all of these things. Let's go to our main package and let's create list example, one new file, and let's minimize this and let's create one composable, and let's give the name list example, this one, and we can also create one preview quickly. Let's add preview annotation and let's add list example preview, and basically you can give any name for your preview, but I try to follow this convention where I just take the composable function name and append it with preview. Inside this we can just use list example. Okay, now we can open the preview. We can just click on this build and refresh. Now we are done with basic setup for our list example. Now let's understand that how we can design a list in Jetpack Compose. So in Jetpack Compose we have to inbuilt a special composable called lazy column and lazy row. Now these things are equivalent to list view and recycler view in Jetpack Compose. Okay, now if we are using a vertical list, or if we want to produce a vertical scrolling list, so we can use lazy column. Okay, and if we want a horizontal scrolling list, we can use lazy row. And we have learned about row and column. So if we want to show some kind of composable in horizontal orientation, we uses row. Same way, if we want to have multiple composable in horizontal direction and we want to scroll as well, so we can use lazy row. Okay, and similarly, as we have implemented our vertical screen with the help of column, if we want to have so many children composable in vertical orientation manner, and we also want to scroll through all of those composable, we can use lazy column. Okay, let me show you how we can implement all of those things. So first we are going to learn about lazy column, and with the help of lazy column we will be able to show some specific items or some given items in a vertical orientation. Okay, so let's use lazy column, this one, and we are going to use this with lambda. Let's remove this for now. Let's say we have some values, and I have created this list. This is basically a string list. It contains so many string values, right? And let's say we want to show all of these string value in one vertical manner. Okay, so we can just use items and we can pass these values. Okay, and we can just use this lambda scope. Okay, it will give us one item at a time, and this is going to be of course of string type, right? And this is basically not mandatory to define the type also here, but we can define if we want. Then we can use any content here. For example, let's say if we want to use normal text, and we can pass the value which is going to be one item. Okay, so let me explain what we are doing here. We have one list of string, right? And then we have declared one lazy column composable. Inside the scope of this lazy column, here we are using this items. This is basically a lazy list scope itself, and we have passed that these are the values which we want to show inside the list. Then this is basically kind of a for loop. Here we are getting one item every time, and we are showing that one item inside normal text. Okay, you can see in the right side our list has inflated with these items, right? So if we want to update this normal text, either we can just go here and update this with the help of this modifier and text style, or we can also use our text component. Let's try to use the text component here, and our preview will update, our list view will update, because our text component has some colors, some style, and so many other things, right? But as of now, these items are not sufficient to scroll. So what we can do is, let's just take all of these things in one line, right? And just copy this line. So there will be some more items. Basically, we just added duplicate items in this list, right? Now, if we try to scroll, we have one proper scrolling effect. So this is basically the list scope. Whatever we want to show in one section for our list, we can add here. So as of now, we are just having text component. But let's say we want to add some kind of divider in between these items. We can do that with the help of spacer. Let's say we want to add one small black separator or divider in between these items. We can do that with the help of modifier dot fill max width. This is going to be the first thing, and then we are going to use height 1 dp. Okay, and we are going to add one background color. Let's say color dot black. It will give us one nice divider in between these items. Now we can scroll and we will be having this in between all of this list item. This is our vertical list. Let's say if we want to design one horizontal list, we can just copy this same example and let's call it horizontal list example. Let's rename this as well, horizontal list example. Okay, and we have all of these value, that's fine. This also we need to rename horizontal list example preview. And now we can delete all of these things. And to show items in horizontal orientation, we need to use lazy row, and we can remove this content from here. We are going to have items. We need to just use this value. This is basically a string list we have, and we need to use lambda scope. Within this scope, we will be getting the item with it as well if we don't want to declare explicitly. Okay, so we can just use text component and we can just use value it, and this value will be kind of a string we will be getting here, right? Every time. This is basically a for loop in all of these values. So we'll get this tiny bear first time, then sweet kitty, and so on. Okay, we are showing that in text component. Let's try to run this first. Okay, so we can see all of these items are showing up in one horizontal list. We can just scroll it back, and as of now there is no specific divider in between. So here also we can use spacer, and with the help of modifier we can use width, and we can just pass 1 dp. Okay, and we can give some custom height. So let's say we want to give height as 40 dp. Then we can add some background color for this divider. Let's say color dot blue. This time we are going to have blue color, and we can see that there is some divider, but it's not properly aligned with our layout, right? So what we can do here is we can just add one row composable scope, and we can put text component and spacer between this row composable scope. Okay, then we can just give some custom properties here. First, let's use modifier and let's give some custom height. Let's say 60 dp. Okay, then we are going to add some kind of vertical alignment with center vertically, and we are going to run our project once again. So we can see that now our list is looking much better. We have one divider also in between. Like this we have our horizontal list. So this way we can have one horizontal list and one vertical list as well. Also we can try to do some interesting thing here. Let's say we have this main activity, right? So what we can do is we can just have one column, We can just take horizontal list. Then we have vertical list, which is just list example, right? So now you can see that one horizontal list is there, then one vertical list is there, right? We can also add some kind of spacer in between these two. Let's say modifier dot height 20 dp, and let's import it. Well, let's do one thing. Let's just take this, go to our app components, and let's create one new composable here, mix list, and just use this inside our main activity. Okay, now let's run this, and we have both of our list inside our screen. So if I change the background, you will see the difference. Let's go here, let's add one background as well with modifier dot background, and let's add dark gray or something, or let's say light gray. Okay, so we have light gray background. Then on our screen, first on top we have horizontal list, which is coming here like this. Then we have some spacer, so that's why there is some space, and we are able to see the background, which is light gray. And then we have this vertical list. So this way we can design our custom layout with the help of Jetpack Compose. And we have learned so many things in this video. These are the previews which we have created. Also we have developed so many layout for different types of examples. Now once you are able to learn these concepts, I will tell you where you need to go next. Once you learn all of these concepts, you can just open Native Mobile Bits, and there you will find two playlists, one for mastering Jetpack Compose, another one playlist where we have developed complete project with the help of Jetpack Compose. If you will explore these playlists, you will understand more details about each of these composables, or how you can use these composables together and build something complete from scratch, like some login or registration flow. You can also learn how you can architect your Compose UI in data and UI layer. This is a well used architecture in Compose project. You can separate out your project in two layers, UI layer and data layer, and you can learn this in this video. And then we also have one video for state validation, as I was talking about state in today's video. You can learn all about mutable state and how to use those states with the help of view model inside your Jetpack Compose composables in this video. After that, I also have one video on Firebase integration with Jetpack Compose. You can learn how you can use Firebase in Jetpack Compose project in this video. Also, I have one video on scaffold in Jetpack Compose. Scaffold is used basically to show this toolbar, or you can also use a scaffold to show this navigation drawer. So you can learn all of these things in this video. Also, if you'll go to the second playlist, here you can find out the complete project which are developed with the help of Jetpack Compose. So this is a fun fact application where you can see a lot of things happening with the help of pure Jetpack Compose and nothing else. And this is the video. This is kind of a complete project with multiple other things, like we have Jetpack Compose, MVVM architecture, we also have coroutines and dependency injection with Dagger Hilt. So you can find out this project. This is basically a news short application, and as you see, there are shorts and reels on so many popular applications like Instagram, YouTube and others. So in this application we have news in short format. You can just scroll up one after another. We are fetching the data from the server, we are filling it up with Jetpack Compose, and then we have this complete login and registration flow development with the help of Jetpack Compose. So I hope you will enjoy these videos in these two playlists. Basically you can find out all of these playlists at homepage, and also you can also go to the playlist section and you will find a load of interesting things. If you are learning Android, you can check out this playlist. If you are just trying to compete inside Android interviews, you can check out this playlist as well. For Android Studio feature and some tips and tricks you can learn from this playlist. Also, there are Kotlin interview questions as well. And if you are learning Android with Jetpack Compose, I would highly recommend go through this playlist and this complete Android Compose project. Okay, and that's it for today's video, friends, and I hope that you enjoyed about today's video, Jetpack Compose Crash Course. If you enjoyed this, please like, share and subscribe to my channel, and please be happy and please be with your loved ones. I will see you very soon with another interesting video.